Puntland Banking and Finance Conference. First, I wanted to commend the State Bank of Puntland and all of our hosts for bringing together such a wide diversity of public and private sector leaders to address one of the defining challenges of Somalia right now, which is how to extend financial inclusion in a way that will unlock economic transformation. We hear a lot about economic transformation now from colleagues in the government and in Mogadishu, and I'm very encouraged to see the emphasis of this in this conference this week. When we talk about financial inclusion in Puntland, we're not only talking about mobile wallets or bank branches, we're talking about the foundation for rural investment, for the absorption of labor. We all know that Somalia has a huge youth population. We need to create jobs that will absorb job seekers and labor, and we need to sustain poverty reduction efforts. And we're also talking about time, because despite how urgent these needs are, evidence shows us that meaningful structural change is not overnight. In contexts with high poverty levels like Somalia, it can take 10 to 20 years of sustained growth to lift the majority of the population above the poverty line, and a lot of that has to come from the agricultural sector. But here we know how to start, and that's what I'm seeing today from some of the presentations, that people have a good idea of where to start. And not to say that you're just starting, of course. A lot of you have been doing this work for years, and it's also very encouraging to see the progress. One of the clearest lessons, I think, from global experience, as I said, is that a lot of the growth needs to come from agriculture. And for that to happen, finance has to follow. So, for example, governments should make a commitment, if you're talking about the decision where to allocate public funding, please do remember to allocate around 10%. These resources are spent matters just as much as the amount that is spent. So investments in roads, in rural electrification, in veterinary services, in the institutions of technological change, and in the investment of the use of fertilizers, for example, will yield the highest rates of internal returns, for example, above 40% in sub-Saharan Africa, which is higher than any other kind of public investment. In Puntland, we do see signs or signals of this potential. So we've seen the expansion of livestock production, improvement in fodder systems, connecting producers to market towns, especially in areas where crop farming is going to be constrained or limited by soil and rainfall patterns. So as Somalia becomes or edges into middle income status, hopefully in the years ahead, we expect to see the rate of horticultural and livestock surpassing the rate of growth of cereal production in driving rural wealth and rural production patterns. But what I want to say is this vision of the future will only work if we build a financial architecture to support it. So we need to go beyond microcredit. We also need to build institutions that can finance warehouse construction, processing facilities, input distribution networks. I think the president yesterday was talking about manufacturing as opposed to simply financing mortgages. I absolutely agree. It means training loan officers who will understand both risk and agronomic concepts. It means empowering women, especially women-headed households. For example, placing them on the boards of cooperatives, on the boards of banks and financial institutions, ensuring that they are equipped with the knowledge and also the authority to lead. And it means recognizing that social and informal systems, financial systems, for example, self-help groups, are valid and sometimes preferable by users for service delivery. So why is this so critical? Because without rural investment, your fragmentation of land ownership will increase, underemployment will rise, and families will be pushed out of rural areas into the informal informal rural non-farm sector. And then what follows is going to be, you'll see income declining, urban migration can accelerate, and the younger generation can pour into cities looking for jobs that don't exist. So this is what we want to avoid, because the result of that would be youth unemployment, both from structural stagnation and from rural neglect. So in contrast, what we want to do from this conference and going forward is when national policy facilitates modernization in productive sectors, we'll see powerful effects. So migration from these areas will slow down. Market towns will grow and can absorb people from less advantaged areas. And this brings me back to financial inclusion. So in post-conflict and fragile settings, we cannot simply just transplant financial systems and exactly copy-paste them that are designed in urban and stable economies. We need to build these around the realities of pastoralists, the displaced, informal financial service users, and interdependent social networks. So for example, digital self-help group platforms such as piloted by IBS, and also IOM and KFW can help mobile communities access savings, credit, and training opportunities. USSD and interactive voice recorded messaging can also reach those with lower literacy and those without smartphones. And where land deeds are unavailable, where land tenure is very contentious and a source of conflict, trust can be established through community-based processes, verification visits, layered identity management protocols. So it's not just about charity, it's about strategy. When formal finance ignores the transformation of the rural economy, everyone will suffer. So production would decline, rural households would spend less on the non-farm sector, income will fall and poverty will deepen. But when finance aligns with modernization, when we tie access to credit to input markets, transportation systems, and technology, this is the cycle that will transform the economy of Puntland and also Somalia. So in urban areas, like in urban centers where there's a lot of displacement also, competition, I think, in Somalia is currently revolving around price, not value. This is because producers don't have enough incentives to innovate, to differentiate, or to invest in quality because they can't count on stable demand or pricing. So goods are remaining basic, undifferentiated, and low margin. And this is also an opportunity for microfinance and for financial inclusion to promote differentiation, higher margins, and innovative goods and services. So we need integration into structured value chains through contract farming, cooperatives, aggregation, and financing. We also need to deploy more sophisticated financial instruments. So a microcredit fund is great, but also credit guarantees can lower risk for financial institutions and unlock lending to first-time borrowers. Revolving funds and self-help group bank linkage schemes, these are already being piloted in Puntland, but they can be reviewed, strengthened, and scaled, making sure that they're not just delivering access, but also building the long-term capital formation and also a habit of saving in the formal financial sector. So let me perhaps just close by reminding everyone that those living in extreme poverty often manage risk every single day. So for them, a broken phone, a bad harvest, or a sick child can mean catastrophe. They are not risk-free, they are risk-experienced. So I'm really encouraged to see such a forum as today's as a sort of step in changing the narrative around the importance of financial sector deepening. And I would really like to suggest that this becomes a national initiative, maybe hosted from Garowe in the future, so that the next year, maybe around the same time, we have a similar event, but it's the first National Banking and Finance Conference. So with this, I would like to wish you all a good second day of this conference, and thank you again to the organizers. Thank you.